Penguin Random House Audio presents Unrig the Game, What Women of Color Can Teach Everyone About Winning. This is the author, Vanessa Priya Daniel. For Kwali, Ifetayo, Trisha, and Mom, my Wonder Women. Sometimes people try to destroy you precisely because they recognize your power. Not because they don't see it, but because they see it and they don't want it to exist. Bell Hooks. Part 1. Winning in the Clutch. Chapter 1. The MVPs and their 3 superpowers. Mommy, can we go to Saturn this weekend? My 3-year-old Ifetayo looked up from pushing around her toy fire truck. She had perched a model of the solar system on top of it. Ife is the most confident person I've ever known, and her self-assurance was on full display that morning. During her previous obsession with Baby Shark, we had taken her to the aquarium to satisfy her curiosity, so it stood to reason that we would now bring her to Saturn at our earliest convenience. It was one of the last days of summer 2021, and I was making my way downstairs to cook breakfast for my 2 kids. I paused on the last step, feeling the soft carpet underneath my bare feet and taking in the sunlight streaming through the trees to land in Ife's soft curls. It was my favorite time of year in the Pacific Northwest, when the rain and gloom have given way to warmth and blue skies, and everything is opened up. Flowers, front doors to let in the breeze, and people who, after scuttling past each other during the long fall and winter months, now lifted their gazes to smile and look one another in the eye. I couldn't see it from our house, but I knew that a few minutes away the Salish Sea was already shimmering in deep blue beneath the evergreen hills and the snow-capped mountains. Ife stared at me intently. Saturn, huh? Maybe we can ask the fairies how to get there after breakfast, I suggested. She nodded solemnly, then looked out the window at the fairy garden our family had built around a magnolia tree in our front yard. It was already abuzz with magic. Black and brown fairy figurines gently twirling in the breeze, a riot of vibrant purple flowers swaying above the dewy green moss below. Nestled in the moss was a host of fantastic items one might need on adventures to never-before-seen places. I loved the wild possibility of our fairy garden, sitting in the middle of an ordinary neighborhood in Tacoma, Washington. It was a sanctuary for the unbounded wonder of children's minds, and a symbol of the tenacious joy of 2 queer women of color making way for our family in an overwhelmingly white and straight city. Given the troubling state of the world, Trisha and I were determined to provide our 2 daughters with the seeds for creative thinking and faith in possibility that they would need to survive the coming years. Our 10-year-old daughter, Kwali, bounded up to me with bright eyes. I waited for her usual morning questions about whether she could play with her neighbor friend, eat a popsicle, or have screen time. Instead, she had just one question. Mommy, is the world coming to an end? What made you think about that? I asked, buying time for my uncaffeinated brain to pivot from Saturn to the end of times and try to think of a solid parental answer. Kwali explained that she and her friends had been talking about the hurricanes battering New Orleans, the wildfires engulfing the West Coast, the murder of George Floyd, and abortion rights being attacked in Texas. I listened as she ran down her list of disasters. I looked at her expectant face, awaiting my response. I wrapped my arms around my firstborn and tried to offer her a comforting answer. Well, love, I said, there are a lot of good people fighting for a better world and to save our planet. We are a part of that fight. We hope we'll win. The truth is, no one is coming to save us. The MVPs. These are apocalyptic times. No generation has faced stakes this high or a responsibility this large. There's no guarantee that there will be enough time for future generations to accomplish the work we were too afraid to undertake, to be bold where we were timid, to act where we hesitated. all of us who are alive and able to take action today, we are the team on the court. This is our shot, and we can't afford to miss. I think about this daily as I look at my 2 daughters and feel how much I want them and their children to have clean water to drink, clean air to breathe, and the ability to lead safe and fulfilling lives. I think about it as I reflect on my 25 years working in social justice movements and the gravity of what those movements face today. Social justice victories are no longer just about who lives well or not. They're about how long human beings as a species will have a planet on which to survive. And given the outsized role the United States is playing in harming the Earth, whether these movements succeed or fail has global implications. No team worth its salt would bench its MVPs, most valuable players, during the final championship game. Yet in the rapidly closing window of time that we have to realize the promise of democracy, to save our rights and the planet, when many of our MVPs are women of color, that is exactly what progressive movements are doing. If movements don't figure out how to value their skills and quit benching them by leaving them underestimated, overburdened, attacked, and undefended, it will continue to negatively affect the scoreboard for everybody. This is not a book about how all women of color are MVPs who know the way to freedom, because Nikki Haley. As movement elder Linda Burnham said, "Clarify your politics and we can talk from there. I don't care what color you are, you can be wrong as 2 left shoes." Nor is it a book about how everyone else needs to go quiet and get out of the way so that progressive women of color can lead. As Rajasvini Bansali, executive director of the Solidaire Network, put it, "The points of unity cannot just be identity. They have to be political, principled, to have a movement-building orientation, and honor shared strategies for power building." The United States is a diverse nation, and it will take people from many walks of life to ensure our collective survival. There's both a moral and tactical imperative for kind-hearted people of all races, genders, and backgrounds to be active in social justice movements as constituents, leaders, and MVPs. It's a both and. As in, we can put all these good people together, and without our women of color MVPs, we still don't win. The immense and looming forces threatening the planet, democracy, and increasingly the well-being of even the most privileged are not new to women of color. In a speech I gave in 2017 in San Francisco, as Donald Trump was being sworn into office on the other side of the country, I said, "As we prepare to face the dual-headed monster of misogyny and white supremacy, women of color, who have for hundreds of years in this country been battling that same monster for our very survival, have something to teach America about how to fight." This remains true. Women of color, and Black women in particular, have repeatedly demonstrated how essential they are to the success of every major social justice movement. Black women voted in higher percentages against Trump than any other demographic group. They founded Black Lives Matter, Me Too, and the U.S. reproductive justice movement, 3 of the most influential social change efforts in decades. In the 2020 election, Black women in Georgia, through sheer grit and determination, and flanked by other people of color and Black men in particular, changed the fate of the state and the country. That same year, Black women led countless uprisings for Black lives across the country, the largest protest movement in U.S. history that sparked demonstrations attracting 30 million people around the globe. Overall, women of color are the country's most progressive and civically engaged voting bloc, with higher voter turnout rates than any other group. From the streets to the ballot box and to Congress, no other demographic group in the nation stands up more strongly against hate and more clearly for freedom, climate action, and human rights. To name just a few examples, take the Squad, women of color in Congress who form the most progressive flank in the U.S. House of Representatives. Consider the drivers of the Green New Deal. A Black woman, Rihanna Gunn Wright, wrote it. A Latina, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, was its first high-profile supporter in Congress. And a Desi, South Asian American woman, Varshini Prakash, led the Sunrise Movement, which prompted a groundswell of young people to push for it. Think about the architects of Oregon's best-in-the-nation reproductive justice law, which expanded access to full-spectrum reproductive health care for all including those who are undocumented and transgender.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?